seen each other all weekend. So great to see you. Yeah, I get some of it. I was just saying how exhausted I am. I've been staying awake past my bedtime. Yeah, right? Right? Okay, so we all know that we love us some Terrifier, and of course Terrifier 2. Our bosses, Bill Philpott, want me to ask, of course, what's Terrifier 3?
Hello, everybody. I am writing Terrifier 3 now. We'll see. I mean, I want to make it as soon as possible. I would say the soonest it can go into production is probably the summer and shooting by the fall. That's like best case scenario, though. But I'm writing, and I'm sure you've read and heard that there may be 2 more coming, so we'll see. Definitely cooperate soon.
Now, is this one going to, or do we not know, is this one going to be a crowdfunded adventure like the other one, or do we have an outside funding?
Well, it's going to be outside funding, but we might still do the Indiegogo just because, like, you guys love getting your hands on, like, Art the Clown's costume and props and things from the movie, so we love keeping it, interactive, and we always have, so.
And I can't speak for everyone, but I personally love getting to contribute to a production. Even if it's not as massive as this, what this has become, I really love putting my money behind something I believe in. So I think that is important, and I think that's what's really neat for the audience to be a part of it too.
Yeah, I agree. We would have never been able to make part 2 without you guys and without the Indiegogo campaign. So
right.
It's kind of like, might as well be a tradition we keep going, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so my first question for you guys is, I would really love to know regarding Terrifier 2. If you remember, what is the first scene that you guys shot? Both like you guys and then your might be different.
My first thing that I shot was the scene where I'm chasing Brooke outside at the carnival area. So that was fun. It was kind of a little bit drizzly rain that night too. But it was fun being back, and I scared the crap out of both Lauren and Brooke that night, Kaylee that night. So because I was like, hey, I got involved with some Terrifier, so they're in the makeup trailer getting their stuff done, and there's a window there at the door, and I just stood in the door, just looking through the window, making faces. And they didn't know. I was there for like 5 minutes, just waiting. And finally they turned and see me. And was, I'm like, what did I do? That was a fun night for me.
My first scene that I shot was in the school when I was skipping down the hallway, and then the second one was the possum scene where I was like digging through the guts. I just remember one of the biggest things I remember was just first getting there, and I was watching David get his makeup done, and I didn't know, like, for some reason I thought that he couldn't see me, like he couldn't see anyone with his makeup on, so I was like staring at him from across the room, like giving him like the weirdest stares, because like I wasn't used to it yet, and I didn't know he could see me. So then he like turned around and was like, what are you looking at? So that's what I remember from that first day. I didn't know he could see me, so I was like staring at him the whole time.
You think he had like blackout contact?
Yes, I didn't.
Well, the first day was, when we were at the carnival, and we were trying to get our wheels going, and I remember, we had all these talks of bringing a gimbal on set, which is sort of like a poor man's Steadicam. And my DP, George, my director of photography, was like, oh, it's going to expedite everything. We're going to be able to move. We're going to get all these great tracking shots and everything. And it couldn't have been the furthest from the truth. I mean, it was technical difficulties from the jump. We were hours behind. And I'm like the calmest, most collected person on set. And I was losing my mind. We are never going to finish this fucking movie.
First scene.
First day, first scene. So that's what I remember from the first day of shooting.
And
the gimbal was a problem the whole entire time.
George kept on insisting that we're going to use this gimbal throughout the whole entire run of the film. Like every time we started, we were like, oh god, no, we're going to do. And every time there was always problems with that stupid ad all the time.
Yeah, the camera we wound up using and the lenses, we had we had a special adapter to get those lenses to work, and the camera wound up being just a little too heavy for the gimbal, so it would malfunction and it would just die like in the middle of the shot. It was really weird. Yeah, it was. We got through it.
It was scared. You scared it. It's your fault.
It was my butt.
So, and also, let's talk about what individually.
I mean, every screening I've seen, your butt gets cheers when that happens.
It does. It did. I saw it opening night. Opening night. It got cheers. Yes. David Butt. What was the, for each of you guys, because the answer might be different, what is the most challenging scene you had to shoot and why?
Okay.
Your butt.
Maybe art?
I think the most challenging scene for me was probably the one in the van where we are driving and I'm like voicing Jonathan. One, because, you know, it was a lot of lines, but two, everyone was trying to make it look like the van was like bumping down the road, but we weren't actually driving. So it was very chaotic because there were like 7 different people outside like shaking the van trying to make it look like it's driving. We're all trying to do our lines and everyone's outside like, trying to make it move. So that was the most challenging part. That was challenging.
I think probably one of the more challenging scenes for me was probably the scene where I actually had to call in a relief swinger for me was when I'm destroying Brooke with the club. Because this thing that he made of the fake chest that I'm trying to beat into this thing, it was just not tearing. Like, and I'm just waiting because this club actually had knives and everything on it. And at one point, like I swung it, and like one of the knives just goes flying off and flew right between myself and one of our camera operators, and we're like, whoa! And it just kept going, and it's just not working. It's not working. I'm getting tired too, and it's because it's maybe 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm spent. And like Mike Levy came in, and you know you might remember him as the exterminator from the first one where I decapitated him. And he came in and just he discovered that you had to hit this thing, like wiggle it around a little bit so it kind of gets in there, and then you could tear it. And I was like, but it was. Whatever he made it so good. It was like, this thing is, because that thing had layers to it. This is how good he is with these practical effects. He doesn't just do an outside, like he adds like muscle and sinew and everything underneath, and then it had all this other gunk inside of it. And that was also kind of challenging that night too, because I had to tear into this thing. And I'm glad they weren't running sound, because we had like, you know, bits of like chicken gizzards and stuff like that in there. We had bones in there and stuff like that. So honestly, it's so cold, and the building we're in is so cold too. And I was like, ew, gross, that was gross. And they're like, God, we're gonna have dinner now. I'm like, oh, then I got all this crap all over my face. I'm like, I need to just be sanitized right now, and I gotta eat now.
The real Art the Clown.
Yeah. Oh, we also had that same night. I gotta tell this story too. This is kind of embarrassing for me, but I think it's hysterical. I'm really immature. I like to call myself Art the Clown. Because I was swinging the club back, you know. And I went, whoopsie! And I was like hoping no one heard it. And I just
Everybody heard it.
Yeah, everybody heard it. I just hear the whole entire video village just cracking up. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Kaylee, I'm so sorry. She did it before cracking up. I'm like, oh God. Oh no, we got put down the bloopers.
Exhausted, so you're already drunk.
Oh yeah, that was basically the whole entire show. We're all just punch drunk.
I think maybe the alley bedroom kill scene was probably the most difficult, but I mean the most just brutal for me. My rock bottom was what we were shooting in the Fright Factory, which was the interior of the haunted house at the end where it all takes place. That's a real haunted house in Philadelphia, and it's like being inside a cave. And I think we shot that in the winter, so there's no heat. It's freezing. It's filthy. It's so dirty. And we were trying to shoot the entire climax in like 2-3 days, and of course we just went so over, and we wound up spending like weeks down there, and everybody was just so miserable, and there was like 14, 18-hour days. There was one night, I think it was the last 2 nights, I was up for 18 hours. Everybody went home, like they went for a couple of hours to either their B&Bs or hotels, and I had to stay and sleep in the Fright Factory. So it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and call time is like 8:30. So then I have to go into another 18-hour day. So I slept on the floor in the guy's office on an air mattress that was this thick. I fell asleep for 20 minutes. I wake up on the floor, it's deflated. I'm on the floor. I leave, go on the couch, this old disgusting couch outside, sleep for like another half an hour, and then I'm like, this isn't working. So I go in my car and sleep outside in the car, and then before you know it, the van pulls up in their back, and I have to get up and go right to the next day of shooting. I'll never forget that. It was so miserable. But that's how it was. That was Terrifier 2. There was no sleep. It was just constant work. But it was just cool to be around such an amazing cast and crew that really just kept morale up.
One of my favorite moments with him too is like this guy was working all the time. I don't know how he kept his sanity and he kept his cool the whole entire time. Like I was waiting for him just one day to just Hulk out and rage out because he was just so sleep deprived. He would even forget to eat. We would have to tell him, Dave, when was the last time you ate? He's like, I don't remember. You gotta eat now. I gotta eat. But there was this one time when we were filming the club scene. And it was, I went there just for one night. That's actually a small cameo I had in the movie where I'm not hard. I'm actually way in the background. Just one little bit, you'll see me. I'm just like the devil and stuff like that. But I just wanted to be there because we had all these Indiegogo backers, and there that night I just wanted to hang out with everybody. And it was like the second night of this, and this like 3 nights in a row they're filming, and no one's having sleep. And at one point, Damien is just curled up in a chair like this, eyes closed, and he's like, okay, rolling. That looked great. Let's do it again one more time. Never opened his eyes. But that's also, he trusted everybody else to do their job and the crew and stuff like that. This shows like how great a leader he is and how much he trusted everybody else and what a great team we had. But I just thought I felt so sorry for him. He was so tired.
Well, it was also like take 7. I could have slept through that one. I was just listening to that.
What is some of the most challenging thing when you're creating an effect for you?
I mean, the most challenging effect I ever had to create was the alley puppet. In part 2, that when the mother comes into the bedroom and then it wakes up on the bed. Because I had to take an entire life cast of Casey Hartman, like sitting in that position, which was difficult. She was getting so cramped with her like sitting kind of like Indian style. And I was like, we always freaking torture people out usually before we start shooting, because they all have to come in and get a life cast if there was something horrible was going to happen to everybody. Yeah. So they're like, oh my God, if it's this bad now, how bad is it going to get? But I got bad for her. She's such a trooper. But so I never built anything that sort of articulated before, and I don't really know how to do like animatronics or anything that intense. So I knew I could turn it into like a crude rod puppet. So me and my partner, my producer Phil, built it, and we put the entire room was a set. So I had people under the bed, like with just rods, basically, going through the bed and into her leg. And they could just kind of like move her leg up and down, or like move her arm. And then I had rubber gloves in her chest that my cameraman, we didn't have enough people to operate. So he would roll the camera, and the whole crew had to go and operate his body. So he's like blowing into her chest, making it breathe, and then someone's behind the wall just making her head kind of move with a stick. So that was cool to see that come to life. And then still, like, I do like visual effects when they're done properly, and you can marry the two. Like, sparingly, yeah, and like the way Guillermo del Toro uses them, like beautifully he marries them. So like something cool we did, for instance, when she wakes up, and then all of a sudden you see her eyeball open up. So we basically, locked off the camera, we had the dummy there, then we moved the dummy and have Casey go in, and we mapped it out with tracing paper on the monitor, and we lined her up exactly where her dummy was, and then we just have her there opening her eyes and blinking and stuff, and then we can digitally put her eyeball onto the dummy. It's the exact lighting, it's the exact distance, so you gotta manipulate it a little bit, but it works beautifully. We did that a couple of times.
See, I feel like an idiot right now, and that just shows you how amazing he is. I thought that was her face. Like, I thought she was in the bed, patiently.
Yeah.
Obviously, this was not real, but I thought that she was actually there. I thought that was her head.
Oh, man.
I really did.
Yeah, even you do.
Things we learned today.
Even and then the close-up is a different dummy head when she says "mom," and we did the same trick. So that's a dummy head with just like a very crude kind of like spring and a wire, just to have the mouth go like that.
I always thought that was a person. Wow. Okay, mind blown. I'm done. Okay, do we have any audience questions? Right in front.
For David and Amelie, when you guys read the Terrifier 2 script for the first time, were you guys like shocked at it, or were you kind of expecting it, but anything in the script that you were just kind of like, whoa, or was it kind of weird stuff?
I didn't even really read the script. I just went into it blindly. I just kind of did what Damien told me to do, and I watched David from the sidelines, and that's kind of all I did. But yeah, I was really shocked of like how intense Damien wanted this character to be. But yeah. Yeah, I didn't know about that until the premiere. The day of the premiere. I had no clue about the poop or whatever until I was sitting in the theater.
That was an insert we got months later with the dog.
My mom never
A
told me.
lot of inserts were like playing with the possum guts with somebody else. We did months later, like really gory inserts and things like that. Yeah. Wait, so what was? So
If I didn't give you a script, I didn't give most people, if I did give them the script, I only gave them up to a certain page, and nobody knew who the enemy was, except maybe Dave and Lauren. But so when you saw the movie for the first time, what really shocked you the most, or was there anything you had no idea was going to be in the movie when you saw it? You were just totally shocked.
The ending, I thought that Art was going to kill everybody. I did not know that that name was going to be how it was. That kind of shocked me, but I was rooting for it.
You really could see it.
Wow. Because when he was writing it, he would send me texts all the time. Say, hey, got an idea about this kill scene and stuff like that. That was what was fun about it. He was always bouncing ideas off my head. But still, he surprised me with a lot of things too. It's like he sent me a message one day. He's like, I got the script finished. Can you come over to my place and read it? So I was reading it while he was just sitting on the couch, and so he knew exactly where I was in the script just based off my reactions to things, and that's what I thought was so much fun. He's like, I would laugh at something, go, oh, and this, and he's like, I know exactly where you are. This happening, yeah. That's so cool. That's so cool. That's so cool. But so I knew about a lot of the kill scenes and stuff like that in the store. But I think what I was really impressed with more was how he really fleshed out the characters in this more than like part one, especially the Sienna and her family. I love that whole dynamic between Sienna and Jonathan, especially, and also Barbara as well, because I love the character of Barbara a lot, because I know a lot of people, she gets a lot of hate. It's like, oh gosh, she's such a bitch and all that kind of stuff. But like, no, there's a lot of depth to that character, I think, because it's like, this is someone that just lost her husband, and she's trying to hold everything together for this family right now. And, you know, she's now, you know, they went from probably being a dual income family to being a single income family. She's got, her kids are going through a lot of problems right now, and she's just hanging there by a thread. And here comes this fucking clown. Just to ruin everything. Just to really just, and it's just, I love it. It's that whole dynamic with that family, especially that moment where Sienna's at the club and she and Barbara just have that nice little moment. I love your mom, type of moment. And I love that moment. The scene, it gets me every time. It was like, I read it on the page, it was one thing, but when I saw it acted out on screen, where Sienna realizes what happened to her mom, it gets me every time. I'm like, oh man, it's just so powerful. It's just like, oh. It's like, and he just added so much more character to this, and that's what I like. And especially with Sienna, I think that's why everybody has fallen in love with her. And it's like, it's such a badass character, and we found just the perfect actress for it. And it's like, I mean, I don't think there was any question in anybody's mind when Lauren came in and auditioned for that role. It's like, she was perfect for it.
There was never a runner-up, just like there was never a runner-up for these two either. You knew as soon as they came in, as soon as Dave came into the audition, I mean, he was the guy. And same with Amelie. I just said, I loved we just saw your resume. I don't even know if I saw a reel, and I just contacted your mom, and I was like, can you tell her to like make funny, creepy faces in the mirror or something and send that to me? I was like, she's gonna be great. But what I wanted to say before, when you were talking about the scene when you were in the car and you're using Jonathan's voice, because I'd never seen her act dialogue before. It was all just making faces. So when I got to hear her deliver lines, and I was blown away by how good she was, and I was so annoyed that I couldn't use her actual voice in that scene because it was so good. Like really, you like blew me away there. So talented, so talented.
Thank you.
Yeah, lucked out with a lot of talented people. Yeah.
Also, I agree with David. Like in Terrifier 2, there's a lot more story to it than the first one. So I think that's what sets it apart. It's just you're really rooting for all of the characters versus the first one. It's more he's just killing everyone.
Kill them all.
The second there's more.
I have to brag about her too, because like her first day on set was my first time actually meeting her, and we were doing the possum scene. And there's so much more stuff that we did with that possum than what y'all were seeing too. We were doing a whole comedy routine, like 5-6 minute line. It's like he was smart to edit it, because it would have just been Jonathan just standing there forever, just going. I like doing puppetry and like playing fetch with them and stuff. And it was because, you know, we've never interacted before, and she just naturally just started playing with all this. And it's like we just had this natural rapport with each other, and we had so much fun. And it was just purely organic with it. It's like I'm not used to like child actors being just so willing just to go full throttle with things, and because I used to I'm a former teacher, and I used to teach a skits and drama club at the camp I used to work at, and when I would do work with children, I usually had to coach them through things and direct them, like, hey, do this here, do this here. I didn't have to do any of that with her. She just naturally just started doing things right away, and I was like, this kid's good. I pulled Damien aside. I was like, oh my God, dude, we lucked out with her. She's just naturally gifted with it. She just has great instincts and knows how to just go with it. And it's like, keep it up. Just keep it up.
I think I've done that without you guys. Like, I didn't feel like I was able to do that. You guys were the ones that made me feel comfortable doing that. Yeah, because it's just such a fun cast. You guys are all so like happy-go-lucky. I couldn't have done that.
Piggybacking off of that, one of the things I really was most impressed with when I saw it, because I didn't actually, when I know I'm going to see a movie, I don't watch trailers at all. I want to go and love it. I want to experience everything for the first time. I don't want any hits. If I'm I'm not sure if I'm gonna see it, then I'll watch the trailer and decide. But, so I didn't watch the Terrifier trailer when it dropped and everyone's freaking out. I didn't watch anything, I didn't read anything, I didn't do nothing, okay? So I went in blind, and the acting, all of your actors in this one were phenomenal. Everybody, I was very impressed with that. That's one of the things, aside from obviously the effects, that I was most impressed with was the quality of the acting. So, yeah, you did well in that. How was casting the rest of your characters? Was it easy? Did you struggle? Did you have to like really look for certain characters before you found your own?
Yeah, we did. It was really me and my buddy, co-producer, Jason Levy of Flynn Lens. He did the casting with me, and we would just do, you know, well, it's all online, like Actors Access, things like that. I just get tons of submissions. We sift through everything and watch reels and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Like I said, there was never a runner-up for Lauren, and she just, you know, the fact that she was a martial artist and she's just so gifted, just so natural and charismatic. I couldn't wait to have her, like, meet her in person. We had her do a chemistry read with Elliot and Casey. But like Kate, yeah, martial arts, kickboxing, all that. Like Kaylee, for instance, who plays Brooke, as soon as we saw her reel, I mean, just on another level, just natural raw talent. And I remember her in her audition, it was the scene where she first, in the schoolyard, where she first pops up and she's telling them about Monica Brown being attacked. And in her audition, her self-tape, she's like eating the cookie while she's doing it. I'm like, ooh, wow, that's just a really good touch. But yeah, we really just lucked out. There were just so many good performances in this one. I was so proud of it. I knew it was going to elevate the material big time. That's all you know, it's a gift for a writer-director. That's all you can hope for. Yeah.
Any other audience questions? Right there.
So I read that the fourth movie may bring about the end of art. Is that true? Should we begin mourning now?
Prepare ourselves.
Doesn't necessarily mean the end of art, but you know, I don't want to fall into I don't want to call it a trap, but I mean where there's just really nothing creative left for me to say, and I'm just like, you know, spinning my wheels and I'm just trying to come up with just new ways to kill people, and that's it, really, excuse to just have one, which I'm sure many of you would just love to just see art killing people for the next 20 years. But who's to say? I mean, the story I have in my mind and all the ideas, I want to put art in a few really cool scenarios and situations. So I think that 2 movies is really all I might have left in me with this character. But we'll see, you never know. I have so much fun exploring that character. And now Sienna and Little Pale Girl, I mean, there's so many cool things. Now Victoria, where she ends up at the end of part 2, is going to be really interesting moving forward. So it's going to be cool. Yeah, I'm excited.
Other audience questions? Right there in the stripes.
When creating the characters in your head, what made you decide to go completely silent?
Oh, because I didn't have to write any dialogue.
Which, right now, expresses so much emotion with no words.
Well, there's a couple of things. I think it's creepier. I wanted to stay as far away from Pennywise as possible. But when I gravitated more, not that I don't love Freddy Krueger, I'm obsessed with Freddy, he's one of my favorite characters. But I always thought, Michael Myers, the fact that he didn't speak was always a little creepier, because just that you cut off that communication sort of makes them more animal, and you feel like you can't really rationalize or reason with them at all. So I like having that element. But yeah, like I said, just staying away from Pennywise, and it allows him to be so much more expressive and interesting, and everything art would say based on his mannerisms and his facial expressions, and the audience sort of fills in the dialogue for themselves. So I think that's more interesting, but certainly creepier.
Anyone else? Right there in the back. Yeah, then we'll get the credit. Yeah.
It's not a question, it's more a statement. What did you decide to do with the table smashing the baby? Everything else was just wow, but that part was going to scary stuff.
I didn't think, I get so many people come up and they're like, mashed potatoes. After Terrifier, well, the first one where Art does the sort of cat lady skin Buffalo Bill thing, right? I love challenging myself and putting Art in different sort of costumes or looks or whatever I can do. So I wanted to have him. In that what would you call it? Apron. I want to see him in the apron, kind of like a little homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre when Leatherface is like preparing dinner when the brothers come home. So yeah, I just thought that would be cool. Everything with Art is just pushing it more and more. It's like more sadistic. So I mean, having him come out and just serve the mashed potatoes is one thing, but then he has to go that extra mile. So I was like, just slam him into her face. It's just typical.
And the one that was in front of you, the gentleman, yes.
When you're writing like Terrifier 3, you have a specific writing routine, and has it evolved with any of the since Terrifier 1?
I don't remember the routine for Terrifier 1, but part 2, I just wound up just the way it organically happened was because I procrastinate like crazy. It's so hard to write that just to get yourself in that mindset. Writing is by far the hardest thing to do because it's just you and the page, it's just your imagination, you have nobody helping you. So by the time I would get going, it would be like 6:30 at night, and I would write till about 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I would go to bed and wake up around 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon. It was a horrible, absolutely horrible routine and lifestyle, and I was like that for about 2-3 months, because that was the first time in my life I actually got to focus solely on a script, and I didn't have to, work a 9-to-5 job. Like that was my job, was writing a script. So I'm gonna try not to fall into that routine again. But maybe that's the way to do it, just living in darkness for 3 months and then that's how some of that shit goes to your mind.
Anyone else? Right there.
What were your favorite kill scenes to shoot?
Definitely, I don't know, like to shoot, they're all pretty grueling. But I think I'm the most proud of Allie's kill scene and the hacksaw scene still. Yeah. But both very intense days. I mean, the hacksaw scene was much easier. It was only 2 days. 1 day with Catherine, but that was super intense. And we had to be on our game because she was upside. I mean, everything you see is really happening to her. She's really hanging by her ankles upside down. And that was, how do you prepare yourself for that? It's not like we know how to do this. We know what this is going to be like. I mean, you're doing it for the first time on set. And so that was intense. So it was just 1 day with Catherine, and then the next day was just dating with the dummy, getting all the inserts that we were going through. So that was pretty easy, but the alley kill scene in part 2 was really intense. So we started shooting it before the pandemic, like 2 days worth, and I didn't have any of the effects prepared or anything, so it was not coming out good. And I was like, no one's gonna think this is anywhere even close to the hacksaw scene. I was like, we're gonna have to come back and tweak this. And then we got hit with the pandemic and lockdown. I said, now I have all this time to really reconfigure this and take all the time I need to, not perfect, but do the best I could to make those effects look good. And then we went back when we finally were able to, and we shot for an additional 5 days just murdering poor Casey Hart for like 5 14-hour days. So it was really intense. Of course, it was the winter, freezing. It was a set built in a barn in upstate New York. So it had like a wood-burning stove in it. That did nothing because it just it went right out of the roof. And then we had space heaters in the room, but we could only keep them on in between takes because they would ruin the sound, were so loud. So she was covered head to toe, almost naked. I mean, prosthetics everywhere, covered in blood. She was sticking to the rug. I was following her around the room with a spray bottle, and I'd have to just spray her joints, literally, like what they would do to Sissy Spacek in Carrie, just follow her around with a spray bottle. It was intense. It was really, because you don't realize, just the scalping scene alone when he does that was like 5 hours just to get that on, just to put the makeup on her, and then it's like an entire day just doing that effect, and it goes wrong, you gotta do it again. So it's just one whole day dedicated to 30 seconds of film, maybe less. So yeah, 5 days to do that whole scene. It was worth it.
Yes, it was. Any
Oh, I know.
Please.
Yeah, I like that one, but I also really enjoyed doing the Clown Cafe scene. That was a lot of fun. For multiple reasons. I mean, like, for one, I got to fire a Tommy gun and a flamethrower in the same day. And I was like just a giddy little boy on set that day. And I'm like, ooh, Damien didn't even get to play with those. I was jealous too. And anytime they're like, we gotta do another take, I'm like, yeah!
No, remember the Tommy gun never fired?
Oh yeah, he kept on like,
They would only fire one bullet at a
yeah, it would
time.
be like, pop. I'm like, I was getting so excited, and then it goes, pop. I'm like, ah! And we finally got it working though. It was, you know, we didn't have a rust moment, thank God. but that was just a lot of fun to do that. It's a very weird thing to actually set a human being on fire too, because our wonderful stunt actress Jenna that played both the stunt double for Aaliyah there, but also for Lauren when she falls through the part pushes her and she falls through down into the pit. She literally plummeted like God, 30 something feet, to all these boxes, and I was like, wow, she was awesome. But I was, you know, they told me to do whoosh whoosh on her, like, because they one on the front, one on the back, and she went up like that, just with one whoosh. I'm like, okay, that's enough. And I'm like, okay, that's going now. And it's one thing to hear, but to actually see yourself like a human being on fire, and then just go whoosh, like, and I have to just keep calm. Part of me is going, holy shit! And I'm like, oh my God, at the same time. It's a very strange moment. But also, that was a fun week because it was literally right before we went to shut down in New York for the pandemic. And we were out in the middle of nowhere, Amish country in upstate New York. And so we're away from what else is going on in the world in that part. So we had no idea. We would occasionally hear little trickles of, oh, Tom Hanks has got COVID now. And we're like, no! He's a national treasure. But we had no idea. And so we had so much fun because we had all the Indiegogo people there that week too. That paid. You see all these people in the background. They were our backers. And so we had new blood on set that week. So it added a whole new freshness and a lot of energy to what we were doing. And their excitement, I think, fed into our excitement. We just had fun. We partied basically every single night too. It was just a great, awesome week, and then everything went in the world. And so it was almost like we were having like our last hurrah before chaos happened. That was probably my favorite week on set. And that was also a week where during the whole build up to all this, we were like, this is such a technical scene that we're doing here. We have so many, special effects going on, pyrotechnics, all this kind of craziness. Is like, God, this is gonna be hard to do. Everything's gonna go wrong. And that's like the one week everything went right, and it just flowed so smoothly. It was just a perfect week, I would say, for us.
Speaking of the pandemic, it was so hard during lockdown because like everyone was getting to say like, oh, I'm gonna do Terrifier 2, like Lauren and Elliot and David, and I just had to stay quiet for so long, and I
you were a big
so
spoiler.
bad to tell people, but I couldn't, and then it just made it worse that we had to it was delayed even more because of the pandemic, but I kept my mouth shut, and I'm glad I did, because I was so surprised.
Yes. I know we have more.
Considering All Hallows Eve, are you mind blown by the progression of it all?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you look at it now, it seems like Terrifier is sort of an overnight success just because of how part 2 blew up, but it's been a really long road. So the first short film, The Rocket Clown, was 2005, and then Terrifier short film was maybe like 4 years later, and then that was put into All Hallows Eve, and then I had to struggle and find someone to give me money to make Terrifier. So yeah, just a lot of stepping stones and hurdles in order to get to where we are. So always believed in the character, always knew there was something there. I mean, when I first created him, it wasn't like there was this light bulb moment where I first created him. I was like, oh, like there's our clown. I just thought, this is a really cool looking, creepy clown, like wow. And then when people saw that, they just kept saying, that clown at the beginning of your short film is crazy. Like, he looks so cool, he's so creepy. You need to make more things with him. And I was like, all right. And then a couple of years later, I made Terrifier, the short film, and that's when I sort of had that realization, like, ooh, there really is something cool here. Like, that's when I turned him into a slasher and really started developing a sense of humor, and like that black sense of humor. And then, you know, you bring in Dave, and then Dave brought Bart the Clown, because, you know, he didn't play him originally, but then when Dave took over the role for Terrifier, the movie, just brought it to a whole nother level, and all these skills and the talent that he brought to it is just really magical. And so we always knew there was something there, and every time we made something, you know, the fan base would grow a little more. So, I mean, but we were never, none of us were prepared for what it did in the theaters, honestly, because we didn't even have any expectations of it going in the theaters at all. We thought it would play maybe a few Alamo draft houses for a weekend, sprinkled across the country. And you know, kudos to Cinedigm and Bloody Disgusting. They were really pushing and advocating, you know, it should go in the theaters. It's and 400, 500 theaters, and just kept growing and growing. Like, really? There's AMC's and Regals and for a whole weekend. And then
One weekend, huh?
one weekend, and then sure enough, by Saturday night, you know, on Twitter, you know, I'm seeing my friend Keith in the theater. Someone passed out and you know, smacked their head in the back of my chair. I'm seeing all these tweets. I'm like, is this really happening? And then that was it. I mean, well, you know, by that Monday, it's like it's on the news and morning talk shows, and Howard Stern's talking about it, and Stephen King's tweeting about us, and it was just off to the races, and they just had to scramble to keep it in theaters because the demand was so high. And then, you know, the next weekend, they got it back in the theaters, but they couldn't get it into as many screens. But it wound up making more money than it did the week prior. And then it was like, oh wow, this is like a little bit of a phenomenon here. And it just kept growing. So none of us, that was a really exciting 2 weeks for all of us. We were all just calling each other and like just scrolling through, you know, online. And did you see this? Sending each other news feeds, and it was really exciting. That was cool. So, but again, we always believed in the character and the potential. But that was cool. That was a surprise.
Yes.
Hi, Damien, I know you submitted Terrifier 2 for the Academy Awards, and it
Can you
didn't-
believe we didn't win an Oscar?
I
have no idea.
Biggest crime! But I know that there's a lot of talk about, you know, horror not getting recognized. What do you think, like, what steps do you think it's going to take for them to finally recognize, for one, your genius, and just horror in general?
Well, I don't know. I think that sometimes, I mean, horror does get recognized sometimes. It's like Silence of the Lambs, you know, sweeps the Oscars when it came out. The Exorcist was nominated. You know, great horror movies get nominated, but I think, you know, your slashers and more violent horror movies, things like that, I think those effects in particular get overlooked because they're just so visceral and it's just more of a shock value. And everyone's like, oh, that's gross. But you don't think of the artistry that goes into something like that. That's so spectacular. Like when you see like a company like K&B doing the hospital movies and things like that, you know, they're stunning.
Yeah.
You have your world-class artists of making effects doing that stuff. And it takes a lot of skill to make it look that realistic and be that impactful. So I would like to see more credit going toward them for that sort of work. But I mean, you know, there's respect for horror out there, especially within the community. As long as we understand and we realize how amazing it is, you know, who needs it?
They had to watch it, so. Thank you.
I know we got more. Right in the front.
Can we expect a showdown between Art the Clown and Chris Jericho in part 3?
Ooh. How to bring Jericho back. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say we're going to see, because I want part 3 to pick up exactly where part 2 left off. So we'll probably see Jericho.
So Art the Clown made the list?
Yeah.
He made the list.
Was there ever a moment for any of you guys where you actually thought, you know what, this is too far?
Yeah. A couple of times. It happens a lot when I'm writing it because I'll just think of how far can I possibly go with this. And trying to think of a particular. I know one with your balloon animal.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like with the just the tip moment, I was like, hey, after I cut off the tip. I was like, what if he makes it into a balloon animal? And he's like, there's no way that is going anywhere near Mark's mouth. People will run away with that online and just do horrible things with that. Fair enough. But I can think of one. It was with the cafe scene.
Sure, yeah.
Because originally didn't we want to have kids?
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why Sienna is dressed like, they're all dressed like kids. Originally I was thinking, Sienna wakes up dressed like a kid, but they're all children on listen, you think of the worst things possible, the most effective thing, but I was like, that's just too far, and that's too off-putting, and it's no longer going to be fun to sit through something like that. So yeah, you have to pull back, but I think, of course, that was stuff that we never shot that, but these are just discussions and just throwing ideas out when we're, it's in the screenwriting stage and things like that.
That was a real discussion we had.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't think we should do that with kids.
Yeah. I mean, I've killed kids before.
Yeah.
I've killed kids, yeah. I'm not above killing children.
Yeah. we did kill, Weston's character in there.
Right.
The serial, but I think it's just, that's too much of a sensitive area considering the climate going on in the world right now, so.
Yeah, because I don't want Terrifier when people leave just feeling very bleak and grim about the experience. Like I always say when people ask, because I get asked that question a lot, like sort of like the feeling after you watch Martyrs or Henry Bush or a Serial Killer, which they're great, I love those movies, but that's just not what I want Terrifier to be. I want it to be more of a fun experience, and just by the first 2 minutes of Terrifier 2, you know we're living in a fantasy world and this character is resurrected from the dead. So that also gives us a little bit of a pass and the ability to be a little more extreme with the violence because it is so obviously steeped in fantasy. So, but we're very conscious of crossing lines.
I got a question for you young lady. What was your school year like after this came out?
Well, every single scene I filmed, I would fly from North Carolina to New York, film for about 2 or 3 days, and then fly all the way back, and then maybe 3 weeks later, I'd do it again, and we would do that for almost every scene I was in. So, yeah, I definitely missed some school, but I tried to get all the work, and I tried to catch up, but yeah, it was.
What was your like after it came out, the reaction?
Oh yeah. Well, even now it's like, boys I've said 2 words to are now all of a sudden coming up and being like, oh my gosh. They're like, you haven't even talked to me this whole time. Now.
What an icebreaker.
What'd you say?
I said, what an icebreaker you had.
Yeah.
It was a black hole.
Yeah.
Like, she's the shit.
Guys, t-shirt of that scene. That phrase. Make it happen.
It's for Jello pudding pops. J-E-L-L. Oh no!
You need your own college.
Okay, other audience questions? Yes.
Someone wants to know if there will be a more gruesome scene that'll top part 2. Anything in part 2?
I'm always going to try.
Yeah.
Always try to top it, which is getting difficult, honestly. There is one scene in particular that I was going to do to Jen's character in Terrifier 1. It was going to happen right after Catherine's hacksaw scene, and I said, there's no way we could do these back to back. It's what we were just talking about, going too far. I said, the audience is going to get up and walk out, and we'll lose them. So, and I've kept that kill in my back pocket. I did not use it in Terrifier 2, so I think I'm going to go back to that, and that was really despicable. So, we'll see. I have a couple of cool ideas, and it'll just get crazier as I'm writing. We'll see.
Any others? Yes.
I just want to say shout out to the Salt Beach scene. Like that was really
Yeah,
said that in the theater, I was like, that's rude.
Yeah, why not? Keep pushing it, the art's just relentless, and, you know, literally pouring salt in the wound. I thought that would be just the worst thing to see. Originally, it was supposed to be Ajax and Bleach. And a buddy of mine on his independent film had a scene where someone rubs Ajax in somebody's eyes, and then Dave was like, just make it salt. I was like, yeah, salt.
He's the new Salt Bay. Another shirt. Anyone else? Yes.
Growing up, like I don't know how old you are, but did you watch a lot of Faces of Death, Traces of Death? Because a lot of the scenes kind of remind me of that.
I did, unfortunately. Yeah, I wouldn't say a lot, but I've seen them, and I saw them as a kid, and I don't recommend you watching them.
Oh, I watched them all.
Yeah. I mean, some of it is actually fake, but there are some real. I mean, the sequels, like.
A lot of the scenes reminded me of those. Like,
Yeah, well, because they've scarred me for life, and that's my way of
That's
dealing
probably
with
why a
it.
lot of us are here now, though, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it shocks people when I tell them that I'm not into like real gore. I don't like looking at real like surgical videos of surgeries and things like that. I'm not really into it, but sometimes for research, I'll dip my toes in. Like for the alley scene, that was a picture of Jack the Ripper's victim that inspired that film, an actual photograph. So it happens, but it's really not my thing.
Okay, guys, we have time for one more. Does anyone have a good one? All right, one back there.
Whose idea was it to film the nude scene?
Oh, fun. I try to get naked in every movie. That's a good story.
That was a very interesting night.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, I'm glad you left by that part. That's one thing I was like, I am not going to be in any state of like undress. Like when we're doing our little patty cake, I was making sure I was wearing pants and stuff like that. Like I don't feel right, you know. But it was so cold in there. It was so cold. Because they couldn't have the heater going because of sound. And I was just standing next to the lights the whole entire time trying to stay warm, or our costume or Olga would come and just give me a cup of hot water just so I could hold it just to stay warm, because I'm covered from head to toe in fake blood. And then I also had to put on a wet costume and walk outside in a wet costume in cold New Jersey weather. But what was so funny is like there's that take of me walking into the laundromat covered in blood, and I had to go across the street and walk in, and by this time we're racing the sun, and people are starting to go to work, so cars are passing by.
We saved the nude shot for the last shot of the night.
Yeah.
That's when traffic really started picking up.
Yeah, that's when everybody's, but you know, let's preface that, so you know, I was walking across, covered in blood, and we do the nude shot, and oh boy, we did it in one take, thank God, because also cameras, that was enough cameras. I had to wear and we're doing this shot, and I know someone saw me outside because I hear I'm like, oh, I'm making shots, and then my sock fell off. I'm like, oh no! And David's like, we got it. I'm like, oh thank God. And then we had like another shot, pickup shot again or something like that. So I'm just sitting there with a newspaper just covering me up because I'm just sick, because I was just too sticky to put anything else on. And all of a sudden, I see some lights coming. Woo! I'm like, oh, not again. This has happened in the first film with the cops showing up. I'm like, oh no. And David's over here touching up a makeup when this is going on. He's like, Dave, let's go fuck with the cops. I'm like, no! No! Do you see me right now? I don't want to die. And we gotta raise the sun. So that's what I was trying to say. Excuse me. We gotta raise the sun. I'm not gonna do this. And of course it has to be a female cop that comes into it. Like, oh, no. And she comes in, she's like, so, sorry, we got a report there was a clown covered in blood coming in here. And at this point, everybody's standing in front of me, because let's don't let her see you. And I just kind of poke out behind her, like, hi, it was me. And she's like, listen, she's like, oh, yes. I see why we were called. So you're shooting a movie, aren't you? So, yeah. So it was fine after that, but I was like, oh God, again. This is the thing that's happened on basically both Terrifier films and our other film that we did with the Fuzzle Lens team, Stream. Where it's like, I even though Stream wasn't with the cop, but I'm like, I almost died, I feel like. I'm going to like, because on Stream, my characters are stalking we're filming in a hotel in Gettysburg. And it was during the pandemic too, so no one should have been in this hotel really in January. And we're filming, and I'm covered in blood, you know, I've got crazy lights going on and stuff like that. And all of a sudden someone opens the door down the hallway, and this woman comes out, "Whatever you're doing is very effective. We are Second Amendmenters and you almost got shot." And this woman shows us this video of me through her peephole walking by, repeatedly stalking my victim in these hallways. And I'm like, oh my God, that is freaky. And she was standing there behind the door with the gun. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, why did this hotel not tell anybody that we were filming a horror movie? Like, that was dangerous. We didn't even know anybody was on that hall either, because we thought we were fine. So yeah, so this is, I guess it's good luck for us.